Unaware his wife was a billionaire's only heiress, Daniel Hayes dragged his pregnant wife, still bleeding from delivering triplets just minutes ago, to the front door of their small family house, shoved three crying newborn babies into her trembling arms, and threw her out into the freezing midnight cold while his mother watched and his mistress smirked from the shadows. But what this husband and his cruel family didn't know as they locked the door and turned off the lights was that the woman they just abandoned on that icy porch, barely conscious and clutching her newborn triplets to her chest, wasn't just Elise Hayes, the nobody wife with nothing and no one. She was Elise Lauren, the only heiress to a billion-dollar empire her father had been searching for. And the moment Daniel made his last fraudulent charge in her name that night, he triggered something he would never see coming. Three black SUVs were already turning onto his street. A protection order he never knew existed was about to activate. And the wife he thought he'd erased forever was about to become the one person with the power to erase him. But who was Elise Lauren before she became Elise Hayes? Why would a billionaire's only heiress hide her identity and marry a man like Daniel? What did her husband and his family do to her during those 9 months of pregnancy that made throwing her into the freezing cold seem like mercy? And what exactly did she do next that crushed them all? But to understand how a billionaire's only daughter ended up bleeding on a frozen porch with three newborn babies and nowhere to go, we have to go back. Back to the moment everything started to fall apart. 11 hours earlier. Before the babies came. Before the door slammed. Before Elise discovered the truth that would destroy her. The morning started like any other morning in the small rented house Daniel Hayes shared with his pregnant wife. Except this morning, something was different. Elise woke up alone. Again. The bed beside her was cold. Daniel's pillow still had the shape of his head pressed into it, but he was gone. She sat up slowly, her belly heavy and tight. 9 months pregnant with triplets. Her back ached, her feet were swollen. Every movement felt like lifting stones. She pressed a hand to her side and winced. A dull cramp rolled through her, then faded. "Not yet," she whispered to the babies. "Not yet. Please." She didn't know why she said please. Maybe because nothing in this house came easy anymore. Not Daniel's attention. Not his mother's kindness. Not even peace. Elise stood carefully and walked to the window. Outside, the December sky was gray and heavy. Ice clung to the tree branches like glass. The cold pressed against the window so hard she could feel it through the thin curtain. She pulled her sweater tighter and turned toward the hallway. That's when she heard it. Voices. Low. Sharp. Coming from the living room. She moved quietly, her bare feet soft against the worn carpet. The cramping came again, stronger this time, and she paused, gripping the wall. Breathe, she told herself. Just breathe. When the pain eased, she kept moving. The voices grew clearer. "You can't keep doing this, Daniel," Margaret's voice, his mother. "You're going to get caught." "I'm not getting caught," Daniel snapped back. "I've been careful. She doesn't even check the accounts." Elise froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "What accounts?" Margaret's tone dropped, cold and certain. "And when those babies come? What then? You think 3 screaming infants are going to make your life easier? You think she's going to be easier?" There was silence. Then Daniel spoke, and his voice was so calm it made Elise's skin go cold. "I'm handling it." "Handling what?" Elise's breath caught in her throat. She pressed her back against the wall, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. The babies shifted inside her, restless, as if they could feel her fear. Then another voice joined the conversation. A woman's voice. Smooth. Confident. Familiar. "You need to do it soon, Daniel." Before she has any leverage. Elise's knees nearly buckled. That voice. She knew that voice. Clara Voss. The woman from Daniel's office. The one he said was just a colleague. Just someone he worked with on a few projects. Nothing to worry about. But Clara wasn't supposed to be here. Not in their house. Not at 9 in the morning. Not speaking to Daniel like she had a right to an opinion about his wife. Elise's pulse roared in her ears. She wanted to walk into that room. She wanted to scream. She wanted to demand answers. But her body wouldn't move, because part of her already knew. Deep down, in the place where truth lives even when you're not ready to face it, she already knew. The affair, the lies, the late nights, the cold shoulders, the way Daniel looked at her now, like she was an obstacle instead of a person. She knew. Another cramp hit, this one sharper, meaner. Elise gasped and doubled over, clutching the wall for balance. The sound was small, barely a breath, but it was enough. The voices in the living room stopped. Footsteps. Elise straightened as fast as she could, her heart pounding. She turned to walk back to the bedroom, but it was too late. Daniel stepped into the hallway. Their eyes met. And for just a second, Elise saw something flicker across his face. Not guilt, not shame, something worse. Annoyance. "You're awake," he said flatly. Elise nodded, her throat tight. "I heard voices." She tried to keep her voice steady. "Is everything okay?" Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced back toward the living room, then looked at her again. "It's fine, just some work stuff." "Work stuff?" Elise repeated quietly. "At 9 in the morning? In our house?" His eyes went hard. "Don't start, Elise." The coldness in his voice hit her like a slap. She opened her mouth to respond, but another cramp seized her. This one so strong her knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe, gasping. Daniel didn't move. He didn't reach for her. He didn't ask if she was okay. He just stood there, watching her struggle, like she was something inconvenient he had to deal with. "Elise," he said slowly, like he was talking to a child. "You need to rest. Go back to bed." She looked up at him, her vision blurred with pain and something else. Something breaking. "I think," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I think something's wrong." Daniel sighed. A deep, frustrated sigh. "You always think something's wrong." Before she could answer, Margaret appeared behind him, her arms crossed, her expression sharp and cold. "She's being dramatic," Margaret said, not even looking at Elise. "She's always dramatic." Elise felt the tears rising, hot and bitter. She swallowed them down. She wouldn't cry. Not in front of them, not anymore. "I'm going to lie down," she said quietly. She turned and walked back to the bedroom, each step heavier than the last. Behind her, she heard Margaret's voice, low and smug. "See? Told you. Always looking for attention." The door clicked shut. Elise sat on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking. The cramps were coming faster now, closer together. She knew what that meant, but she didn't call for help. She didn't scream. She just sat there, breathing through the pain, staring at the wall, and that's when she saw it. On the dresser, a folder. Beige, plain, nothing special, except it had her name on it. Not Elise Hayes. Elise Laron, her real name, the name she hadn't used in 3 years, the name Daniel didn't even know existed. Her heart stopped. Slowly, carefully, Elise stood and walked to the dresser. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the folder. It was heavy, thick with papers. She opened it, and the world tilted. Bank statements, withdrawals, charges, hotels, jewelry, dinners, all in her name. Names she recognized. Accounts she hadn't touched in years. Accounts her father set up. Accounts Daniel wasn't supposed to know about. But he did. He'd found them. And he'd been stealing from them for months. She flipped the page, her breath caught. A document, typed, professional, legal, voluntary relinquishment of parental rights, her signature, forged. At the bottom, a note in Daniel's handwriting, after delivery, pressure her while she's weak. Elise's hands went numb. The folder slipped from her fingers and hit the floor, papers scattering like leaves. She staggered backward, her legs giving out. She collapsed onto the bed, her vision swimming. They were going to take her babies. They were going to take everything. A sob tore from her throat, raw and desperate. And then the pain came again. Real pain. Deep. Violent. Her water broke. Warm liquid soaked through her dress, pooling on the floor beneath her. No, she whispered. No, 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 not now, not here. She tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't hold her. She fell to her knees, gasping, clutching her belly as the contractions ripped through her like fire. She screamed. The door burst open. Margaret stood there, her face twisted in disgust. Oh, for heaven's sake, she hissed. You couldn't even wait for a hospital? Elise looked up at her, tears streaming down her face. Please, she begged, please help me. Margaret didn't move. She just stared down at Elise like she was something dirty. Something shameful. Then she turned and called down the hall. Daniel, she's in labor. And from the living room, Elise heard Clara's voice, light and amused. Well, I guess it's time. The pain was unlike anything Elise had ever felt. It tore through her body in waves, each one stronger than the last, each one stealing her breath and her strength. She was on the living room floor now. She didn't remember how she got there. Margaret had called someone, a midwife, a woman with cold hands and colder eyes who worked quickly and said nothing. No comfort, no reassurance, just silence. Daniel stood in the corner of the room, his arms crossed, his face blank. He didn't hold her hand. He didn't kneel beside her. He just watched, like she was a problem he was waiting to solve. Clara sat on the couch. Actually sat, legs crossed, sipping tea, watching Elise scream and bleed and break apart on the floor like it was a show she'd paid to see. Push, the midwife said flatly. Elise pushed. Her vision went white. Her body felt like it was splitting in half. And then she heard it. A cry. Small, fragile, beautiful. A baby. Her baby. The midwife placed the tiny body on Elise's chest for only a second. A girl. Then she took her away. Elise reached for her, but another contraction hit. She screamed again. 2 more times she pushed. 2 more times she heard that cry. A boy. Another girl. Triplets. 3 perfect tiny lives. They were here. They were real. Elise sobbed, her body shaking. Where are they? She gasped. Let me hold them, please. The midwife wrapped the babies in thin blankets and placed them in a bassinet across the room. Not yet, Margaret said sharply. You need to recover first. Recover? Elise could barely lift her head. Blood soaked the towels beneath her. Her body felt hollow, broken. But she didn't care. She just wanted her babies. Daniel stepped forward. He looked down at Elise, and for a moment she thought she saw something. Regret, maybe. Guilt. But then Clara stood. She walked over to Daniel and placed a hand on his shoulder. It's time, she said softly. Daniel nodded. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. The same paper Elise had seen in the folder. The forged document. Sign it, he said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Elise stared at him, her chest heaving. What? Sign it, Elise. Give up your rights to the kids. It's better this way. Her heart stopped. Better? She whispered. Better for who? For everyone, Margaret cut in. You can't take care of them. You have nothing. No job, no money, no family. You're a burden, Elise. You always have been. Tears poured down Elise's face. I'm their mother, Clara laughed. A soft, cruel sound. A mother who can't even stand? A mother with no resources? Come on, Elise, be realistic. Elise looked at Daniel. The man she married, the man she loved, the man she gave up everything for. Please, she begged, don't do this. He didn't answer. He just stared at her. Empty, cold. Then he turned to Margaret. Get her out. Margaret's eyes lit up. Now? Tonight, Daniel said. I don't want her here when I wake up. Elise's breath caught. What? You heard him, Margaret said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. You're leaving, tonight. No, Elise gasped. I just gave birth. I can't even walk. I don't care, Daniel said. His voice was steel. You're not staying here. Not with my kids. Not in my house. Your kids? Elise's voice cracked. They're our kids, Daniel. Ours. Not anymore. Clara stepped forward, holding the document. If you sign this, we'll let you rest for a few days. We'll even help you find a place, but if you don't... She trailed off, letting the threat hang in the air. Elise shook her head, trembling. I won't sign. I won't give them up. Fine, Daniel said. Then you leave now. He grabbed her arm. Elise screamed as he yanked her to her feet. Her legs buckled. Blood ran down her thighs. Her vision blurred. Daniel, please, she sobbed. Please don't do this. He dragged her toward the door. Margaret grabbed the bassinet. Wait, Elise cried. My babies! Give me my babies! Margaret shoved the bassinet toward her. Take them then. Take them, and get out. Elise's arms shook as she tried to hold all three. They were so small, so fragile. She pulled them against her chest, her body screaming in pain. The front door opened. Cold air rushed in like a knife. It was freezing. Ice covered the porch. The streetlights were out. The world was black. Daniel pushed her. Hard. Elise stumbled out onto the porch, barely catching herself. Her bare feet hit the ice and she gasped. It burned. Wait, she begged, turning back. Daniel stood in the doorway. Behind him, Margaret smiled. Behind her, Clara watched. You have nothing, Elise, Daniel said quietly. You are nothing. The door slammed. The lock clicked. The lights inside went out. Elise stood there, bleeding, shaking, clutching 3 newborn babies to her chest. The cold bit into her skin. The babies cried. Weak, desperate cries. She sank to her knees, her body giving out. She tried to cover them with her nightgown, tried to keep them warm, but she had nothing. No coat, no blanket, no phone. She was alone, completely alone. Someone help, she whispered into the frozen air. Her voice cracked. Please, someone help us. But the street was empty. The houses were dark. No one was coming. She looked down at her babies, their tiny faces, their perfect fingers. She kissed each of their foreheads, her tears falling onto their skin. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Her vision blurred. Her body grew numb. The cold wasn't sharp anymore. It was soft, heavy. She felt herself sinking, fading. This is how we die, she thought. And then she heard it. An engine, tires on ice, headlights, bright, blinding. 3 black SUVs turned onto the street. They stopped in front of the house. Doors opened. Footsteps. A voice. Familiar, strong, warm. Miss Lauren. Elise looked up. A man knelt beside her. Older, kind eyes. She knew him. Marcus, she breathed. We've got you, he said gently. We've got all of you. Elise didn't remember the drive. She remembered warmth, blankets, voices speaking softly, someone pressing oxygen to her face. Then nothing. When she woke, she was in a hospital bed. White sheets, soft light, the beeping of monitors. Her body ached, but the pain was distant now, dulled by medication. She turned her head. 3 small incubators sat beside her bed. Inside, her babies slept. Safe, warm, alive. Tears spilled down her cheeks. A door opened. A man in a wheelchair rolled in. Older, thin, tired eyes that brightened the moment he saw her. Elise, he whispered. Dad. Alexander. Lauren reached for her hand. His grip was weak, but his love was strong. I thought I lost you, he said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry, Elise whispered. I'm so sorry I left. You wanted love, he said gently. Real love. You deserve to find it. She shook her head. I was wrong. He wasn't love. I know, her father said quietly. And now he'll pay. Over the next 3 days, Elise learned everything. Marcus had been tracking the fraud for months. Every charge Daniel made, every account he touched, every lie he told. Mrs. Thompson, the neighbor, had recorded everything. The shouting, the cruelty, the night they threw her out. All of it. Evidence. Clara's law firm was under investigation. Margaret's house was being foreclosed. Daniel had been arrested. Elise sat in the hospital, holding her babies, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Power. Not the kind that came from money. The kind that came from knowing the truth, from surviving, from refusing to disappear. 2 weeks later, Elise walked into a courtroom. She wasn't bleeding anymore. She wasn't broken. She stood tall, her father beside her, her lawyer ahead of her. Daniel sat across the room. His face was pale. His hands shook. When he saw her, his eyes went wide. "You," he whispered. "You're a Lauren?" Elise didn't answer. She didn't need to. The judge read the charges: fraud, identity theft, child endangerment, forgery, reckless endangerment. Daniel's lawyer tried to speak, but there was nothing to say. The evidence was overwhelming. Clara had already testified against him to save herself. Margaret had lost everything. Noah refused to speak to any of them. The judge looked at Daniel. "You abandoned your wife and newborn children in freezing temperatures after defrauding her of nearly $1 million. Do you have anything to say?" Daniel looked at Elise. His face crumpled. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I didn't know who you were." Elise stood. Her voice was calm, steady, strong. "You didn't need to know who I was," she said quietly. "You just needed to love me." The judge sentenced him. 5 years. Civil judgments that would follow him for life. Everything he owned, seized. Everything he dreamed of, gone. Elise walked out of that courtroom and didn't look back. She went home. Not to the small rented house, not to her father's mansion, to a new place. A place she chose. A place filled with light and laughter and 3 beautiful children who would grow up knowing they were loved. Not because of money, not because of name, because they were hers. And she was enough. 6 months later, Elise stood in a park, watching her babies sleep in their stroller. A woman approached. Kind eyes. Soft smile. "I saw your story," the woman said gently. "What you survived. Thank you for not giving up." Elise smiled. "I didn't do it alone," the woman nodded. "Still, you're stronger than you know." As the woman walked away, Elise looked down at her children. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who wanted simple love, the one who thought hiding her identity would protect her heart. She had been wrong about some things, but not about love. Love wasn't simple. It was fierce. It was protection. It was standing up when the world pushed you down, and it was worth fighting for. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that survival is possible, that justice is real, that you are never truly alone, please subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything. Thank you for being here.